recording in progress. It is time for the PR Masters to meet. PR Masters is a chapter of the Toastmasters International, and we focus on marketing and PR related topics. I would, at this point, like to introduce our Toastmaster for the evening, Jennifer. Jennifer, would you come off mute and tell us what we're going to be experiencing tonight?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's raining PR. Woo! We're going to be talking about PR and how it rains through our lives. And a perfect example of this is Maren Ziba, who did the ad with me holding an umbrella with little PR rain. And what I enjoy the most about Maren's posts is that they're well branded and they're creative and they're fun. And that's what PR is. It's not just for Toastmasters, which we all love. It's also for other aspects of our lives. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to get right into it and introduce our general evaluator to tell us what he will be looking for today. Joe Dudman.
Thanks, Jennifer. I'll be looking at the overall quality and enthusiasm of the group and the club, how we conduct the meeting and keep things running on time. And I'll also be evaluating the non-speaking roles, the evaluators. I'll be evaluating how they do their evaluations and how insightful they are and things they might kick up a notch. And at the end of the meeting, I'll give a report on them and an overall evaluation of the meeting as a whole. Back to you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Joe. That sounds wonderful. Now I'd like to introduce our timer. Fred will be timing our meeting today, and he's going to tell us how that works.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. I am your timer this evening, and I'm going to be using the virtual lights. So for my prepared speeches, are they both 5 to 7 minutes? How long is yours, Bob?
10 to 12 with 3 minutes for Q&A.
Okay, so for you, it's going to be green at 10, yellow at 11, and red at 12.
Okay.
And how long is my next speech?
5 to 7.
Okay,
Yeah, 5 to
so
7.
you're going to see the light green at 5, yellow at 6, red at 7. Table topics, speakers have 1 to 2 minutes. So you're going to see green at 1, yellow at 1.5, red at 3, and for the evaluators, at 2 minutes, you get 2 to 3 minutes. So you're going to see the green at 2 minutes, yellow at 2.5, red at 3, and to all the speakers and the evaluators, you have 30 seconds to wrap it up when you talk, and I will give my report when called upon by the general evaluator. Back to you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Fred. Appreciate that. And that demonstration was great. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Matthew so he can explain his role as the group feedback leader.
Thank you very much. One of the things that we love at PR Masters is hearing from everyone. We like to hear from folks about what it is that you are learning, what your takeaways are, what your light bulb moments are. So as the group feedback facilitator, I will be asking you in inventive ways to provide instant feedback to our speakers.
All right, thank you very much. Now, I am going to introduce our first evaluator, who's going to tell us what she will be looking for in Bob's speech. Maranziba, could you please tell us what the goals and objectives are for your evaluation?
Absolutely, Jennifer. At PR Masters, we often have never heard each other speak before. And I've seen Bob in a few other meeting environments, and Bob always has great screen presence and energy, and I will expect nothing less tonight. Lots of energy, lots of enthusiasm for his topic. I'm also hoping that he'll be able to clearly explain to an international audience what his project is and how he's going to get it done and why. That important question of why is Bob doing this? So those are my 3 areas. Of course, I'll be looking for some good public speaking skills, but I'm really looking for how he's going to engage us on the screen. Back to you, Jennifer. Jennifer may have frozen for a moment, everyone. We're going to have a little patience moment, and I do believe Fred dropped a link in the chat earlier. So if you would like to answer the question in his poll, that would be very helpful. And I think he's wondering why you may have come here this evening. Vivian's back. Vivian, how did you start your Toastmasters journey?
One more time, internet's going crazy this morning. Again, please. Can't hear you.
Yeah, I think Martin was just asking, how did you start your Toastmasters journey?
Oh, my age is gonna show. Back in 2001, after the turn of the century, my friend kept bugging me, join us in Toastmasters, join us in Toastmasters. And I'm like, why? Who's that? What I was doing at the time was I was giving talks internationally in 12 countries in 4 languages, mostly about attitude, confidence, things like that. My answer to your question is nice and simple. She wanted me to help share with the people how to be acting natural, how to have less anxiety, and how to stop worrying about people not liking them, which is what I do around the world. So that's my answer. That's how I started, letting people know you won't die if you say something wrong in public speaking. Just treat it as a playground here in Toastmasters. And that's the best advice I can tell people. I've been in and out of the club, several clubs over the past 22 years. But just like an old love, I'm always back. So here I am, whether you like me or yes, right? Please, may I visit you as I sit here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Jennifer, over to you.
Thank you. All right. Bob retired from UPS in 2018 and took up walking his dog, a giant schnauzer called Panda, for entertainment. He joined several walking clubs and has held leadership roles in several of them in membership and publicity. He will share with us how his Toastmasters experience is helping him to target a new demographic and gain recognition for the walking clubs as stewards of the environment, not just passive partakers of the scenic beauty of the Pacific Northwest. Please welcome Bob Hall as he presents Plocka-up, a new literacy program.
Thank you, Jennifer. Awesome introduction. Thank you so much. And we have an international audience here too, I understand. And the subject of the speech is, it's a foreign word, plocka-upp. It's Swedish. Plocka-upp. We're going to learn a little Swedish here today, folks. It means pick it up in Swedish, okay? As you heard, I retired in 2018 and I joined a couple of walking clubs and I joined Toastmasters. And I gotta tell you, I was supposed to kind of fade into the sunset. No, I'm busier now than I was when I was fully employed with all of these activities. So what do you call a combination of Toastmasters and walking? I'm doing both of those, walking and talking. When you go for a walk, what do you do with the people that are on the walk? You talk, right? Now, if you happen to be walking down a trail and you see a Coke can or candy wrapper, how do you feel about that? How do you feel when you see litter on the side of the road? How does that make you feel? Yeah, I see thumbs down. Yeah, but it feels kind of hopeless, doesn't it? What can I do about this? You figure, well, I can't pick it up and put it in my pocket. What am I supposed to do about this? The city will do it, or the neighborhood will do it, or something like that. But it still gets you in your conscience, doesn't it? So, what else can you do with walking and talking? Put those two words together and you got walk the talk. Right? Walk the talk. If you walk the talk, you feel compelled to do something about it. How do we walk the talk? Well, that's what this speech is going to be about. Picking it up and talking it up. I'm picking up the litter and I'm talking about it. And this is how you rain PR onto the subject. Now, hopefully my slide will advance. Thank you very much. So back to Sweden. This guy in Sweden came up with this concept in 2015 of picking up litter while he was jogging. And it apparently is caught on worldwide. There's 2 million people a day doing this in 100 countries. This is an international event. You don't hear too much about it here in the Pacific Northwest, but hopefully I'll change that with this speech. Picking it up, a new literacy program is how I've titled this presentation. It's estimated that we all live downstream from somebody, don't we? We all live downstream from somebody, and litter and plastic gets into the oceans through the waterways, through the streams. Unless you're sitting on the top of a glacier, and then you got to worry about space debris. So you'll be the first ones to get the space debris. I've got to remember to hit this button here to advance the slides. Right. So here's an example of what I did recently. Took an 8-mile walk along Burnt Bridge Creek Trail. It's a trail in Vancouver, Washington. It's 8 miles long. I walked 4 miles down the trail and 4 miles back. And I got 8 grocery sacks of garbage on that walk. And, this thing, translated into English, Plocka-up, is plogging. If you go to plogging.com, you can find out more about it. So this is me plogging with my dog. If you want to know what Burnt Bridge Creek Trail is, here's a picture of it. It's 8 miles greenway that goes from I-205 in Vancouver all the way across the I-5 bridge to Vancouver Lake. It's very scenic. I'll show you a picture. This is what you would see on the trail. Beautiful paved walks, woodlands, grasslands, ponds, creeks. But guess what? There's one little problem. There's an increasing amount of litter and trash on this trail. So what do we do about this? Well, one of the walking clubs that I'm a member of, the Vancouver, USA Volkswalkers, is signed up with the city to adopt to a 2-mile section of this. As you can tell from the picture, it's an aging group of people. You know, for many people this age, their bending over days are over, and it's difficult to get recruits to come help clean up the trail. But we've adopted the 2-mile section of it. We can't do all 8 miles every month. We can do 2 miles a month. And the city recognizes this and has given us this spot on their website. And people can sign up to do this. We don't often get people signing up to help out. And again, you know, I'm trying to change that. Here's a more recent picture of us. This is a couple of months ago, February. We got together. And I'm trying to convince this group of Volkswalkers, this is a walking club, they're called Volkswalkers, to rebrand this thing as Volksplogging. Now, one of the problems along this trail is, especially during the pandemic, we've had like a bunch of homeless camps springing up on the trail. And when you clean up the trail, you can't really clean up the homeless camps. You're not allowed to do that. There are laws about personal property. But we did have a representative of the city come with us in February and helped us out with our cleanup effort. We found a spot where a tent had been. There was no tent or mattresses there, but there was litter. We cleaned up all of that into several bags of trash, and we also, in the process, cleaned up 2 hazmat containers, like those orange hazmat containers for sharps. We had 2 of those that we filled up on that one camp. And the day that I went and took that 8-mile trip down the Burnbridge Creek Trail, I walked past that spot, and lo and behold, there was a brand new spanking tent right on that spot. That sort of thing can be discouraging, can't it? This frustration and this burnout. This group of people here has been doing every month. It's the same group of people from the club who does it. They're tired, and it's hard to fight City Hall. So my philosophy is, it's better to light a single candle. It's just a single candle. Better to light a single candle than to just sit and curse the darkness. So you pick up a piece of litter, clean up a little small area. It's better to do that than to grumble and complain about it. And if enough people do that, we'll solve the problem. All right. So what I did last month is I reached out to a bunch of litter cleaning up organizations. Earth Day 2022, big nationwide organization. April the 22nd is the day that a bunch of folks around the country get together and do cleanup. And I put Burnbridge Creek Trail on the map for them. Another group, the Keep America Beautiful. You may remember, if you've lived long enough, you may remember a series of ads that ran with a picture of an Indian, Native American, in a canoe with Manhattan in the background and tears running down his eyes with all of the flotsam and jetsam in the bay. That ad was put together by Keep America Beautiful. It's still going. And they have this Great American Cleanup, a nationwide effort, between March and June every year. There's another organization, a worldwide organization called National Cleanup Day or Worldwide Cleanup Day on September the 17th. And hundreds of countries participate in this. And they've got a website, and you can sign up and volunteer to get a section of your, whatever you're interested in cleaning up, add it to their calendar. So I've done that. Another organization, AARP, offers grants to to help with cleaning up neighborhoods and that sort of thing. And I signed up with them, applied for a grant. Another organization, Solve, they're famous for cleaning up the beaches in Oregon. And I reached out to them and attended their leader training and put what we're doing on the map, and actually met face to face with the outreach coordinator for them. Talked to them about it. Now, this walking club that I'm a member of, Vancouver, USA, in February, they put together a series of walks, multi-day event on the Oregon coast, from Astoria down to Seaside, and Longview, a couple of other places. And while they were doing that, I popped off down to Nehalem, and I participated in the Nehalem Bay cleanup and met the Solve coordinator and the folks who organized that cleanup. And I kind of got some information on how they did that. Here are the sponsors of that organization. I talked to a couple of those folks. I'm getting the yellow light here. Okay, this is a picture of me getting on a boat, going to Deer Island with my dog Panda, and she found 3 tennis balls, so she helped with the cleanup. I also reached out to the city of Vancouver, and I got a response from them. There are a number of other people who participate in this cleanup. There's some homeless advocate groups that participate in it, and there is a plan in place to move some of the homeless to these safe stay housing places. It's in process, but it takes a little bit of digging and asking questions to find this out. So here's the question. What can you do about this? The solution is very simple. You can adopt your own neighborhood trailer park. Very inexpensive. For $16, you can purchase a couple of these, like here. I don't know if you can see this. This is a trash picker, rubber gloves, trash bags are cheap. And so, Plocka-up, folks. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. And I'm open for questions and answers if you've got any questions.
Thank you, Bob. If there's any questions, either raise your hand so we can see.
Jim's hand is up. Jim Marcy.
So Bob, have you heard of an app called Litter-acy?
I did. I found something called litter-acy when I was doing my research, and I looked into it, and I tried using it, and there's not a lot behind it.
Yeah, I looked at it. It looked interesting, but I just thought maybe that'd be sort of thing too. But I haven't used it much yet.
Yeah, it's a thought. Having an app to help you to do this, you can report the problems and get more people involved.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm trying to figure out is how to report it, because the way this Litter-acy app works, like you're supposed to take a picture of every piece of litter you pick up. And there's no way I'm going to take a picture of every piece of litter I picked up.
It's a lot of work. I agree. Yeah, no. If you can talk face to face with people, with the groups that are actually doing this, and then get on their calendar and do it, it takes a lot of work, and people, it's hard to get people to do this. So, but it's something that's worthwhile doing. It's better to light a single candle than to sit and curse the darkness, right? It looks like I got the green light from the timer. Does that mean that?
We've got a minute left.
A minute left. Any other questions?
I do. I recognize, thank you so much for introducing us to your great terminology. And I love your literacy. a great turn of phrase that goes with that.
Mhm.
Living in the country here in Canada, and I don't know if you do this in the States, we have a 4-H cleanup day on the weekends.
Mhm.
And we have 4-Hers all over our highways, cleaning up our highways. And you can adopt a portion of a highway. Because here in the prairies, not so many cool trails like you've got in Oregon.
Mhm.
Are there highway and country programs that you're aware of in the States?
There are. You can adopt a section of the highway, and a number of people do that. But you know, they kind of shut a lot of that stuff down the last 2 years because of COVID. Because people they were discouraged from getting together too close, 6 feet apart, and all that kind of thing. And so they kind of shut that down. But now that the mandates are being lifted, that's coming back. And I see Deanna's got her hand up. Can't hear anything, Deanna.
Deanna has a comment in the chat.
Oh, okay.
I think it says, I have environment garbage, 1981.
Okay.
Something along those lines. Thanks, Deanna.
It goes way back.
Bob, another quick question.
Sure.
What was the most interesting piece of litter you picked up?
I can't say it. No, I can't tell you. No. Use your imagination, okay? Yes, but the most common thing that I run across nowadays are face masks. A lot of face masks caught up in the bushes. Another huge element that people discarded: cigarette butts. And actually, somebody came up with a brilliant idea for using cigarette butts. There's some sort of an element in it that you can melt down. There's some plastic in it, and you can create park benches out of it if you get enough of them. And some cities are now putting cigarette butt containers on the city streets, 20, 30 feet apart. People put their butts in it, and they're actually recycling those. It's a great idea.
All right, I think that's all our questions. And if you stop sharing the screen, we could all give you a round of applause here.
Great, there we go. All right, thank you very much.
Wonderful, thank you so much. I'm going to now turn the meeting over to Matthew, who was our group feedback leader, to do his part, and then he'll be turning it back over to me.
Thank you so much. I have put a link into the chat, and if you click on it, or if you navigate to that, it will give you an opportunity to give Bob 3 words of feedback. So we were able to all share with him. And I am curious to see what this group thinks. To me, it is a very interesting idea, right? You take an activity that people are accustomed to doing that has a certain brand, right? Walking, and you rebrand it as something else. So if you follow that link, you can type in your words, and I will share my screen, which will give us an opportunity to see what people are saying. Bob, people are saying that this is inspiring, that they see a way to make a difference. Plogging, lighting a single candle, meaningful. Sometimes it's just as simple as taking a walk. They thought that your talk was innovative, fun. They could see your passion in this particular topic. Thought it was a great idea. And it is really fun to see this come together. My big takeaway here, Bob, from your speech is that you can take something that is otherwise mundane or potentially dirty or even dangerous, and you can make it inspiring, helpful, and awesome. Not only that, but it's something that each of us can do too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. And what's kind of funny about this is you're going to be evaluating our next speaker, Ralph. So I get to introduce you again to tell us the goals and objectives of Ralph's speech that you'll be looking for when he gives his speech.
The purpose of Ralph's speech is about understanding your communication style. The purpose of this particular project is for Ralph to explore different communication styles and think about the way that he speaks and communicates with others. The purpose of this speech is for him to share the impact of that with each of us.
Thank you. Ralph has discovered you usually don't get what you want if you don't ask for it. Will someone help you solve a problem at work that hampers both of you? You won't find out if you don't ask. Will someone visit your Toastmasters club? They will not visit if you don't invite them to visit. Ralph will share some perspective on asking and some ideas for encouraging
I was a naive freshman in college. I was walking under the California sun to my political science class with my good friend Dave. I said, Dave, my Hobbes paper on Leviathan is really going to suck. He said, how come? We were talking about it. You had some good ideas. I said, it's due Friday. My calculus problem set is kicking my butt. And I have an economics test on the same day that I have a lot of studying to do. I just don't have time. And Dave said, just ask for an extension. I thought, an extension? Nobody died in my family. I haven't been sick. Would he give me an extension? Dave said, just ask him. It's not that big a deal. Just ask. We went into class. We had our discussion of political science, and Professor Lewis said, does anyone have any questions about the paper or anything else? Well, I had a question. Professor Lewis, could I have an extension on that paper? He was surprised, to say the least. He looked a little stunned. There was a pause. Ralph, let's talk about that during office hours. Well, I did go to office hours. I went and asked for my extension. And he said, yes, I got the extension because I asked. I asked very badly. I asked in an embarrassing way, but I asked and I got what I was looking for. Years later, I was in sales training for a new job. And it was time for our mock sales presentation, the culmination of the class. I was ready. I knew the products I was working on. I had studied the company that we were asking for. I had studied the scenario that we were given. I knew my presentation would just knock them dead. I gave my presentation. I went through some questions. I handled the objections, and I was about to sit down, and the sales trainer said, you didn't make the sale, Ralph. I was crestfallen. I didn't make the sale. How could that be? I knew the company's problems. I showed exactly how our product addressed those problems. I answered the objections I knew they had before they asked, and I was ready to answer any extra ones. How could I have not made that sale? And the sales trainer said, you didn't ask for the sale. You need to ask or you're not going to get the sale. In PR Masters, you are focused on public relations, marketing, and that's the air cover. But in terms of Toastmasters, getting guests, getting people into your meeting, the hand-to-hand combat under that air cover is the members of the club asking people they know, people they have credibility with in their networks to come to the club. For New Horizons Toastmasters, I wanted to capture that ask to get to the metric of how many times did people in the club invite someone? How many invites per guest? How many invites per member? How many invites per meeting were we getting? We set up a contest where each invite, as reported by the member, not a big deal, just tell us how many invites you made so you're thinking about it so we could do it each week, gets you into a meeting. It gets you into a drawing. For each invite, you get a chip to be pulled out of the hat for the drawing. That was the incentive to capture that metric of inviting. We had other incentives that were built in for when a guest shows up, because if you're consciously inviting, some guests will show up. And another one, if the guest becomes a member, so we could track all the way through the funnel and see the membership growth from invitee to guest to member. We haven't given any prizes for invitees becoming members, but we have had guests. We have had meeting themes that were focused on getting people back to Toastmasters and encouraging people to invite people. I know that member goal is going to come along through the power of asking, that personal power, the kind of hand-to-hand combat under the air cover of marketing. The key for getting new members, the key for getting help on something when you need help, the key for getting people to participate in something with you is to ask. If you do it in an embarrassing way, it's still better than not asking. And if you don't do it, you're not going to get what you want. So ask. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Ralph, for that great speech. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Matthew, who is our group feedback leader, to do group feedback for Ralph.
I have once again placed a link into the chat. It might look familiar. If you open that, it will give you an opportunity to provide some gratitude for Ralph. And I am going to share my screen. There it is in big, bold letters. Ask. Sometimes it can be, to Ralph's point, it can be very difficult to ask. I think sometimes we think that we are imposing on other people when we do that. I think it's always important to think about the person you have in mind and to frame up the ask as something that has a genuine benefit and a genuine care for them. And that is coming through in the comments for Ralph. We've got gamification. Just try it. Close the deal. Be succinct. Don't forget to ask. Outreach. Go all in. Great phrase. And ask, ask, ask. Ralph, thank you for your speech.
Thank you, Matthew. Well, on that note, I'm going to ask Fred for the times for each speech. Please, Fred, will you give us the times of each speech for Bob and Ralph?
Yes, starting with Bob's speech. His speech before the Q&A was 13 minutes. With the Q&A, it was 4:26. And for Ralph, he was at 5 minutes, 46 seconds. That is my timer's report.
Thank you so much. And now I will turn over the meeting back to Matthew, who, as president, will talk about our club business. Back to you, Matthew.
Thanks so much. This turned into the Matthew Show, which is great. It's my favorite TV channel of all time, is the Matthew Show. I have a couple of asks for our members. Actually, not a couple. I have 3 asks for our members. The first one is that club elections are coming up. And I would ask that each of you who is a member of this club consider ways in which you can help PR Masters in the coming year. Maybe you have been a participant in our meetings, but you haven't had a chance to give a speech. Maybe the coming year is a chance for you to get the courage up to give that speech. Maybe you've been thinking about ways in which you can be a leader in this club. And there are many, many opportunities for you to lead. So many roles for us to fill. It is a specialty club. It only meets once per month, but the leadership here is involved in making our club a real success, and you could be part of that too. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I have another ask. We're gonna ride that, Ralph. I think it's a pretty good one. In terms of a way that you could plug and also do some good on your daily walk, you have an opportunity also to sign up for roles for our next meeting. And we sign up for roles online, and we can put the link into the chat. But my ask is that you consider a role for the next meeting. Because while Matthew TV is very interesting and very compelling, it really is, it's great. The demos on it are awesome. The next meeting that we have could feature you in a guest role. And those pay very well. They pay double what I'm making right now. So consider that. And the third ask that I have is a little more somber, which is we had a member who passed away earlier this year. Her name was Birgit. And I would like to have a moment of silence for her as we remember her as a bright light in our club, as somebody who was a passionate Toastmaster and a friend, and we will miss her. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew, for all the information and doing that moment of silence as well. Much appreciated. Now I get to the table topics portion of the meeting. And I'm not going to introduce Matthew this time. I'm going to introduce Adam Doss to do table topics for us. Take it away, Adam.
Thank you, Jennifer. Today's table topics was inspired from a conversation which happened between Bob, Matthew, Maren, some of our active members during one of the planning meetings. So a shameless plug for the planning meetings. In case you have not attended one of these, we meet once a month, actually, towards the middle of the month, I think, on the third Thursday of the month. So lots of great stuff, lots of great ideas, lots of great discussions happen there. So this was one of the brainchilds of the planning meeting, PR Masters planning meeting. And when Bob was talking about his speech and kind of keeping some of what has happened over the past few weeks, months in mind in Ukraine, it made all of us take a step back, and we wanted to think about how we can use PR for the general betterment of, it could be your local society, it could be the world in general, but how can we use PR for some good? It could be something small, like maybe you use some of your emotional intelligence skills to resolve an issue in your neighborhood association, or it could be something big. Maybe you use some of your PR skills, which you learned through this club, and developed a recruitment campaign for a volunteer organization. So the ideas are endless, the possibilities are endless, but I do want us to take a step back and kind of look at how we can use PR for good, beyond just Toastmasters, beyond just your own small business. So that's the topic for today's table topics. And I'm going to call upon certain people who wants to talk to this, and then we can go from there. Okay, first I see Deanna, you have your hand raised. Deanna, you want to tell us a little bit about how you use PR for community engagement? Deanna, I think she's trying to type something there. We'll wait, we'll give her a chance. Okay, Matthew, you're up. Back to the Matthew show.
Yeah, that's great. When the Ukraine war started, I'll admit feeling quite helpless about the whole thing. I donated to the United Nations Refugee Fund. And all the money that you donate goes directly to refugee programs. My employer matched me at 100%, which I was really proud of. And together with my fellow coworkers, we raised $1 million for the UN refugee program, which was pretty awesome. I don't post on LinkedIn a whole lot, but I decided that that was a good use of the LinkedIn platform to share, to market, I guess in some respect, about something that I felt really good about and that I was really proud of for my employer. So it was a way of potentially driving some additional donations, as well as letting people know about a company that I thought was doing good.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you for sharing that. And I completely resonate, and I hear you. I remember during that, I think it was one of the Thursdays, I couldn't really focus on work. And I was looking at ways I could spread the word about some of the donation links, and yeah, definitely I relate to the feeling of feeling helpless and trying to do my bit monetarily to help out the cause. Okay, we have our guest, Vivian. Do you want to share something with us?
Done. In my own simple way, I'm in a third world country. I'm in Manila, Philippines, in Asia, 7,100 islands, depending on high tide or low tide. You can imagine how the pandemic had an effect on us. We are still using masks. We are the country with the longest lockdown ever. But then again, no complaining, just being grateful that I'm still safe, healthy, and alive at 70. To answer your question directly, I'm a certified mental toughness coach and also a mental health first aid responder. I help people learn that amidst the uncertainty, amidst the stress, the anxiety, the depression, and quite a number of suicide ideation, let us remember the basics of what Toastmasters kindly tells us. And let me add some percentages from the research I made. 55% of the message is from our body language and our gestures. Like, don't tell people, I love you. Doesn't make sense, right? People believe what they see before what they hear. But all of us remember mommy saying, eat your vegetables. Look, this will make you healthy. I love you. It's good for you. I'm like, yeah, sure. All right. Then again, 38% comes from the voice tone. Can you imagine if someone were to propose to you and say, will you marry me? Maybe not, maybe not. So what's the voice tone? 38% from the voice tone. For all that we do, we write, we edit, and we memorize in Toastmasters, 77% only for words. So you better make those words correct. This is what I do in my own small way to PR Toastmasters amidst the pandemic in my third world country. Mwah, I love you.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Love the vocal variety and use of gestures there. That's great. Okay, now we have Marcy.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I was delighted but challenged when I worked corporate. I was in the shopping center industry as a marketing director. Now, back to school, everybody's out there wanting to get people to come to their mall, but what could I do that was different? I put together a campaign that was all about reading, writing, and arithmetic. But how could I tie that back to my community and build community relations and with it? I reached out to my local library and I said, do you know anybody that needs some help or assistance that we could contribute to? They said, we don't, but there's someone starting an Alberta literacy program. That's a different kind of literacy than what Bob was talking about. And I thought, oh, who do I talk to? It followed around a long series of events, and I was able, through the shopping center and my ad campaign, to launch this Alberta Literacy Foundation and get their first meetings going. They're raising public awareness. And later on, they invited me to sit on their board, and I became the president eventually of that organization for a couple of years. Now, I didn't know a lot about literacy programs and the people that needed it. I often thought of literacy as an ESL situation. But in Canada, as in the United States, there are a lot of people that are lacking literacy and numeracy skills. So I ran some PR on that issue and made a difference. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Marcy. That was really a great way to leverage PR. Next, we have David Shehorn. David, do you want to unmute it?
Sure. Well, I think leverage is a good tool to use when you're doing PR. I have found that leveraging other social media postings broadens the recognition, provides discovery and opportunity, and expands the outreach. I've had the experience, perhaps even the joy, but certainly the challenge of running a nonprofit, a 501c4. I know what you're thinking. It's C3, but not if you are running a candidate's political campaign. Those are C4s, primarily engaged in promoting some way for the common good and general welfare of the people of the community. For this state legislature candidate, I was the campaign manager and chief fundraiser, the bottle washer and the janitor, everything but the treasurer, who was an unpaid volunteer. We ran a minimalistic virtual campaign with our own website, but continuously used social media of that time, a decade ago, to redirect inquiries to the campaign webpage and social media pages. We recruited a small but dedicated group of volunteers who would post timely updates. If the candidate was interviewed by a reporter, participated in a debate, interacted at the local and social events, there were cameras capturing the photo op. The candidate randomly selected people to interact with and exchange thoughts with. Handshake photos commemorated the events. That was the keystone, the handshake, the gimmick, the MacGuffin, the meme. Posting quickly to social media was essential. Replying to any printed media postings on their social media pages was also likewise essential. Quickly, timely, same day, no delay. True, leveraging other social media postings with a relevant commentary is opportunistic, but essential for maximizing outreach in a political campaign. Oh, by the way, that candidate was me, Mr. Topics Master.
Oh, that's really interesting. Great example of a great campaign driving effort. Love that. Thank you, David. I apologize to Joe, Maren, and Deanna. We are running a bit short. So if you want to share your thoughts, I would encourage you to put all that in the chat. And I would like to hand the meeting over back to our Toastmaster, Jennifer, to take it away. Jennifer?
Thank you so much, Adam. That was fantastic. And now we are going to go to the next segment, which is Dear PR Masters with Carissa. Carissa, please lead Dear PR Masters.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to do this a little differently than we've done before. Usually with PR Masters, we have a member ask the club a question relating to PR to draw from the crowd round robin feedback. I'm going to do that, but I want to bring this back to you, meaning originally the club founders wanted this club to help you solve questions or problems or share ideas about PR. And this segment was really supposed to be one of you taking the lead and asking the question so you could get answers from everybody. So I kind of have a double ask. Think about taking this segment, leading it, so you can ask a question that you really care about. But also right now, I would like to know from whoever would like to volunteer. You can put it in the chat or you can raise your hand and express it. What would you like to actually see more of in this club in terms of speeches or anything else? Or what has been something retrospectively in this club you've seen that you thought was really valuable? Because we want this club to serve you, the members, and we want guests input also. So I'd like to hear from anybody or see any answers in chat. What would you like in this club? What have you liked in this club? Maren, is that a hand from you?
Sure. Something that I didn't expect to like. We record our meetings, and that made me very nervous at first, like, oh gosh, I'm being recorded. And then I got used to watching them and being like, oh, I learned from watching myself and watching others and watching these recordings. Okay, I'll accept that. And they get posted to our website. I happened to go back to our Canva workshop from the fall recently because I was helping another person with her own Canva presentation. I rewatched it and I was kind of amazed by the quality that we pulled off early on, and that I still felt like it was a valuable piece of work that we had put together. So it's nice to see that our stuff has lasting quality, in my opinion, and how we can continue to do that would be fantastic.
Great, thanks, Maren. I agree. I think everyone's a little hesitant when they're not used to being recorded, but now that I'm used to it, I like being able to review the meetings, and I wish my other club did that too. Vivian, would you like to give a comment, please?
I congratulate you for recording. And time and again, I've said this. If you look at the gallery, you will see what I do. I'm a broadcaster. Everything there is live. It's a talk show. And people call from all around the world. Now, the greatest thing, in my opinion, and a lot of people disagree, the greatest thing that happened to Toastmasters is that people are, ta-da, now with their own talk show. You have your PR Masters talk show. Therefore, you will all remember to have the perfect blocking. Do not show the nostrils, especially if you're from the Philippines. The nostrils are larger than the nose. Oh my goodness gracious. So we should not do that. And then again, just a short gift for all of you. Yes, yes, yes. When people say get closer to emphasize, again, you'll be recorded. Don't do this. That's kind of scary. Okay. So I'm glad you're doing recording. My gift to you, it's called 2 inches. Just go, oh, you notice 2 inches projects largely on screen. I love that you're recording. If you want more tips, I'm just a breath away. Marcy, you have my contact details. But yes, I love that you're doing recording. So welcome to the PR Masters Toastmasters talk show. Oh my goodness gracious. Bravo.
Thank you, Vivian. And that is one thing I think we have to give, is share our tips as well as share our questions. Both are incredibly valuable in this club. I appreciate it from everybody. Oh, who do I call on next? Adam.
Sure, I'm going to make this quick. We had some of these sessions earlier during some of our earlier speeches. I was wondering if we could see more of metrics-driven success stories. Like, for example, I did this. This was the status of the organization before. I jumped in and I did like a campaign, and then it increased by 50% or 100%, or maybe some failure stories like this didn't work, this worked. What I could have done better. I made this change, and now it's this, so on and so forth. So some metrics-driven speeches on what worked, what didn't work would be interesting. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Really great insights. I do have some failure stories, and that actually might be a nice twist, not just success stories, because that's how we learn, right? Great. Marcy?
Thank you, dear PR Masters. Adam, that's a level 5 project that I've been going around in my mind, a little bit, perhaps a correlation, but I'd like to talk a little bit about analytics. But one thing I would like to see more of in our club, and now, especially as I've taken on the role of VP Education, is to help people become comfortable with doing a speech in our specialization. We've received some feedback that said people are unsure of how to tie in a speech with our focus on PR. We are a community that is here to support everyone. And if you haven't been a speaker yet, we would love to help you just hop over whatever that bar is that is hindering you and move forward, because we want to get to know everyone in our community and provide them with an opportunity. Plus which, because we're at 20 members now and we've got 4 DCP points, I would really like to get us in on the DCP program. For those Toastmasters that are familiar with that, that's a distinguished club. And wouldn't that be a great accomplishment in our June or July meeting to say that we made that? So if you have a level completion, talk to me, please.
Thank you, Marcy. I have a feeling we will make Distinguished Club. But yes, let's connect with Marcy. I need to hand this back over to Jennifer. I do see a response from Deanna in chat, which we appreciate. And anybody else is also welcome to continue making remarks in chat or staying after the meeting or posting ideas on our Facebook group or LinkedIn group. Back to Jennifer. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Carissa. That was a fabulous segment. Loved it. Now I'm going to turn over to Fred to get the timing for both our table topics and our Dear PR Masters segments. If you could tell us what they were, Fred, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, for Matthew, I got 1 minute, 17 seconds. For Vivian, I got 2 minutes, 18 seconds. For Marcy, I got 2 minutes, 11 seconds. And for David, I got 2 minutes, 13. For the Dear PR, I didn't really time it, but everybody, according to my clock, was within about 2 minutes. Everybody that participated in Dear PR Masters.
All right. Thank you so much, Fred. Appreciate that. And now it's the evaluation portion of the meeting. And I'm going to turn the meeting over at this point to Joe Dudman, who's our general evaluator, and he's going to introduce our evaluators. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Yes, it's always fun to be general evaluator. There's so many things to mention. I'll turn it over to our first evaluator, Maren, who will be evaluating our first speaker today. Maren.
Bob and the rest of the group, I really enjoyed your speech. I felt that you were conversational throughout, that you kept me interested, that you told stories, and who doesn't love your dog being a feature as well? I really liked that you tried to help us know where the park was and showed multiple ways. Like some people will connect to a map aerially, but a lot of people will connect more to that photograph and the pathway and the lake experience and things like that. I think that's particularly helpful when you're just trying to show people who, like Maria, who's not here tonight, what our environment looks like in the Northwest when she lives in a desert. Helpful to have those photographs. You also showed people, you showed the groups you were involved with, and you had a lot of examples. I think you did some things really, really well in your talk. And I felt that you're on a journey where you're not quite certain where you're going to get to yet. And your speech, how can I help you to improve and make this even better as you bring this out into the public more and more? And partway through your speech, you talked about rebranding your walking club. And I wonder about how your slides could gradually show you rebranding your walking club, so that this is where you started over here. It was called this, and then you gradually become more professional, more organized, and change the name on the slide to having that walking club's name, the new name. As well as, what are the next steps? You met with these different organizations, learned a lot. I feel that learning stage going on. Who are you going to look to collaborate with? Solve was mentioned at one point. My next step is this. You hinted that you're going to do something to drive toward that website, maybe. So finding out those next steps would be an element of this, of these are my next steps, where I'm headed, I can report back. And I think at the end, you had an adopt the park part of your slide. Somehow choosing the term that you really want to push through and sticking to it throughout, instead of using many catchy terms like Plocka-up and walk the talk. Being a little more reflective will make it more powerful, so that your CTA comes through really clearly. And that could be walk the talk, it could be pick it up, and have that run throughout. Keep us concentrating on the real goal of your program. Really inspiring, Bob, and I look forward to seeing another round of this and watching you kind of rebrand this walking club into a new thing and helping clean up the neighborhood. So thank you very much for this speech and your first speech in PR Masters.
Thank you, Maren. Very helpful. Next up, we'll have Matthew give his evaluation of Ralph's speech. Matthew.
Thank you very much, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Ralph. What a fun speech. What a fun idea. The notion of asking, and it's very central to the work that we do as PR advocates, as marketers for Toastmasters and for our clubs. We can often get very caught up in all the procedural elements of marketing and sharing, and sometimes it's just as simple as asking. It can be asking someone to come to a meeting. It could be asking someone if they'd like to return. It could be asking a guest what they thought of the meeting. These are all really important questions, and sometimes it's especially important just to remember to ask. Ralph asked me for feedback in a couple of key areas. One was in relationship to how I heard him. The second one is how I saw him as a gesture, and the third has to do with him being new to us. So I'm going to start with having heard you. Ralph, I especially enjoyed your use of pitch and found it to be incredibly successful at your narrative storytelling. You said, for example, I was crestfallen. I didn't make the sale. And I thought that the pitch up at the end told us how sad you were that you hadn't made the sale. You also talked about the trainer who beat that same idea into you, but from a different perspective. And this is something that Vivian touched on earlier, right? With her idea of maybe leaning forward just a few inches or changing tone. The trainer said, you didn't ask for the sale. So those are both great uses of pitch to share an idea. The second one has to do with how I saw you. And you are a very animated speaker. I appreciated your gestures as a way of communicating to us and keeping us involved in the speech. You talked about, for example, a chit to be pulled out of the hat. Hopefully you can see my gestures because I'm not in my home environment. You talked about tracking all the way through a funnel. And in particular, during your speech, you had a very bright gesture and your mouth was very open, and it not only was very welcoming, but it helped us to hear what you were saying very easily. I thought that you had a few extra gestures maybe that you didn't need. You were just maybe a little extra animated. So maybe if you tone a little that bit down, then the gesturing you do will stand out a bit more. And I want to challenge you. I do think that you have an opportunity to gesture in a way that the ask can become a character. In the phrase that you used that I thought in particular, it was a place where we could challenge you is, you said, I wanted to capture the ask. And in my head, I was thinking about the ask as like a butterfly. And I imagined myself as a child with a net trying to track down that ask, right? To capture that ask. And I think that if you had maybe a gesture of the idea that the ask was some sort of an ethereal creature that we were trying to track down, that kind of a gesture could be incredibly effective at helping us to visualize it as something that we have to go capture ourselves. Overall, you had effective pitch, you had delightful uses of gestures, and as a guest speaker who has come to speak to a group that you are unfamiliar with, we thoroughly enjoyed your speech. We are very glad you came and visited us and shared with us the power of the ask.
Thank you, Matthew. Excellent. I'll go into my evaluations of the evaluators now. 2 excellent evaluations. Maren and Matthew both gave good introductions before the speeches, very succinct explanations of the goals that the speakers had tonight. So that was a good start. Maren, you started out with some general observations and then that you liked about the speech, and then you got very specific and you focused in a little more. That was a good technique. I liked how you mentioned the contrast of the map and the photo to show cartographically interested people a map, and then photos was a nice touch. You had a good insight about showing the local environment to our guests from other places. I liked your suggestion about using the slides themselves to illustrate the branding of the walking club. You had good ideas for next steps to elevate the speech to a higher level. Had very helpful suggestions for improvement and a good idea to nail the call to action at the end, and very good, helpful comments. Matthew, you had a great introduction. It was almost like a mini speech in itself that was very entertaining. You had specific areas for the evaluation provided in advance by the speaker, which is always helpful to both you, the evaluator, and the speaker. So that's always a good idea. You repeated the vocal variety and the gestures that you liked. So you not only described it, but you illustrated it by doing that. That was very effective and helps to make your point. And the idea of presenting the ask as a character was a really insightful thing that I'm not sure many of us would have thought of. So very good, entertaining and helpful evaluation. Fred, as timer, did a great job today. He started off by confirming the length of the speeches, which is important. Sometimes we assume a speech is a certain length when it isn't, and it's good to know, especially for the timer. You made a very clear description of your role and the demonstration of the backgrounds. And I liked how you timed the speech before the Q&A and also with the Q&A. That took some good preparation. So great job there. Adam's table topics were very creative, and it was a really productive idea, and you described it very well and conducted it nicely. I like Carissa kind of turning PR Masters inside out, making the segment more a call for suggestions from members of the group rather than presenting something concrete and then having us comment on it. That was really well conducted also. I liked how Matthew acknowledged the international makeup of the group at the start of the meeting, and he gave a nice, concise description of the mission of the club. Jennifer, as Toastmaster, had a very lively start and an enthusiastic introduction, and she always has a strong, clear voice. It was good to have Adam step in for questions when we realized that Jennifer wasn't always able to see the questions. There's one aspect of PR Masters that we don't have that lots of clubs do have, and that's a grammarian. And I kind of miss that because I, like Marcy, I love the litter-acy coinage, and I liked the Matthew show. I like things like that in a Toastmasters club, and grammarian is one of my favorite roles, so I kind of missed that, but there's some fun things tonight. Matthew introduced and summarized the multimeter clearly and energetically. And one thing I wish is that we have a very good core group of members that takes on the roles regularly, and I would like to see more members take on roles. Matthew's points about encouraging us to fill roles in advance on Easy Speak was very well taken. I'm always encouraging that in my other club too. And finally, thank you for the moment of silence for Birgit. We're going to miss her. So that's my general evaluation of tonight's meeting. It was very fun, lots of creativity and inspired ideas tonight. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Our Toastmaster has survived coming in and out of this meeting 7 times. This will be now 8 times. So at this point, I'm going to transfer this over to Matthew.
Now I've got to look at the agenda. Oh boy.
It's 8:20.
Yeah, I sincerely appreciate Jennifer's stick-to-itiveness, tenacity in rejoining us over and over again. It can be such a pain, can't it, when the technology that we need to support us doesn't quite work out. I just saw the display. I would love, Fred, I would love for you to share your feedback with us.
Okay, I think I got new results. Give me just a second.
Yeah. Maybe. You're on mute.
Hold on, here it comes.
All right. There you go. Sometimes it's really nice to check in with our members and guests and just see why you're here. And on that note, Jill, if you don't mind unmuting, would love to hear from you about, as a brand new guest, what did you think of our meeting and what feedback do you have for us?
Thank you, Matthew. Interestingly enough, this is the first Toastmasters meeting I've attended not part of my home group. I've always just been with my home group. I've been a Toastmaster since 2019. I really enjoyed your guys' meeting tonight, how well it was run, the activities and how you guys did your speeches, and the Dear PR Master segment was interesting. Everybody was incredibly well spoken on here. We still have newer people in our Toastmasters club like myself that fumble through our words from time to time. Really enjoyed how clear and how well everybody was spoken, and just the knowledge and experience within this club. I'm interested in joining and learning more about PR. That's why I'm here. Is I've been doing some PR work with some nonprofits I volunteer with, and then I have a husband that's going out to start his own business that I'm going to be working on a website and social media for. So just across the board, interested in more PR opportunities. I get a little bit through my work, but not a lot. So this is a great opportunity. So thank you to Marn for inviting me.
Thank you from the rest of us to Martin for inviting you. Yeah, it's incredibly rewarding to be in a meeting like this with other people that are curious and insightful. And on that note, I want to once again encourage people, do consider going online and signing up for the next meeting. It makes it much, I'm going to say it again, much easier for our Toastmaster to pull together a meeting if people have volunteered for some roles. So you might not think I'm talking to you. I am talking to you. If you're listening to me right now, I'm talking to you. Thank you very much for a wonderful PR Masters meeting for the month of April. If there's no other business, I am going to draw us to a close, and we can sign off from our recording and people can stay and visit.